Good evening. Regular meeting of the boards called to order. Would everybody please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
A little time delay.
Before we get started, I would like to read a little message. Superintendent Steve Mills passed away, and so I would like to read this. It is with great sadness that we announce the passing of former Superintendent Stephen Mills. He served Mishawaka students and the community for 36 years as an elementary principal, assistant superintendent, and the superintendent. He served the superintendent position for 11 years before retiring from School City of Mishawaka in June of 2010. He had a lifelong passion for education, and we can still see today throughout schools. Our hearts go out to Joanne and his family. We would like to do a moment of silence, but we would also like to say that Paul Daggy was a custodian at Mishawaka High School, and he also passed away, so we would do a moment of silence for the both of them. Thank you. 2.03, adoption of the agenda. It is recommended that the agenda for February 8, 2023, regular meeting of the Board of School Trustees be adopted as presented.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. 3, recognition. 3.01, job well done, Mrs. Smith.
Good evening, everyone. Tonight we get to recognize Lee Laird, and he is here with us. If you could, so Lee is like he's kind of listed as a custodian for us, does storeroom, but he just does everything. He's everywhere. So. So a colleague of Lee's shared, he's definitely a team player. Lee is very thoughtful and always has a smile on his face. When I started working for SCM 3.5 years ago, he was and still is my go-to person. He almost always has an answer for my questions. I think a lot of us agree with that. So. A little bit of information about Lee. So he's been with us since 1997. So in 97 to 2000, he was night custodian at the high school. And then in 2000 to 2007, he moved over to John Young, and then 2007 to now, he is here at the Ad Center in the Services Building. So he's been with us for, I didn't realize he's here this long. That's really great. Another colleague of Lee shared, I've worked with Lee Laird for many years, and he deserves recognition for a job well done. He is reliable, always willing to help out if needed, and he does it with a smile every time. Thanks for all that you do, Lee. And it's so true. I don't know that I've ever seen Lee without a smile. No matter what time of day, no matter what's going on. So, but Lee shared a lot of really, really neat fun facts. So we get to learn a lot about him tonight. So he grew up in Cheneyville, Illinois. I think I said that right. He's a 1979 graduate of Hoopston Eastland High School. At some point, you'll have to ask him what their mascot is. It's really interesting. So it'll make you laugh. It'll make you laugh. But prior to being here with us at School City, he had a 20-year career in the U.S. Navy. And he'd shared too, during his time in the Navy, he had the privilege of traveling to many different countries where he enjoyed the opportunity of experiencing different cultures and meeting interesting people. And Lee and his family were then transferred to the Naval Resource Center in South Bend in 1988, and that was where they made Mishawaka their home. So Lee and his wife, Cammie, have 3 children and 4 grandchildren, and all of their children are Mishawaka High School graduates. So after retiring in 97, from the Navy, that's when Lee called School City Mishawaka his work home. He's a huge sports fan, and in case you don't know, he is a Notre Dame fan. Yes, he and Dr. Stevens like to go back and forth about Purdue and Notre Dame, so so that's always fun. And then he did share too, of course, he supported his Chicago Bears and Cubs from all over the world when he was traveling in the Navy. And he enjoys weekend adventures with Cammie. They explore new areas and finding new breweries. so you may want to ask them a few good places to try. And it's always interesting to learn like what people like to eat and stuff. So he did share some of his favorite foods: are barbecue, tacos, lasagna, wings, shrimp and grits, and gumbo, to name a few. Which makes you kind of hungry since it is dinner time. So. And then a colleague also shared. So when it comes to Lee, you can ask him to do anything and he's happy to comply. Just call his phone and his response is, "Go ahead, what do you need?" You do have to talk fast when it comes time to talk to Lee because he doesn't stay still too long at all. So, he is always good for a laugh and he is polite, respectful, always. I consider myself fortunate to work with him, and SCM is fortunate to have him as an employee. So tonight we get to say to Lee, job well done. So I think everyone probably and then also we learned that vinyl tap and table is one of your favorites, so we have a good card for you. So if you'd like to say something, you're welcome to. If you want to say go Irish, whatever you want to do.
Thank you everybody for this, but you told me I was getting a gold watch.
It's in the mail.
But thanks a lot. Thank you.
Thank you. Sweet. 4 comments and questions from the floor. 4.01, representatives of the Mishawaka Parent Group. 4.02, representatives of school employees. 4.03, representatives of Mishawaka Education Foundation, and I believe that Andrew is speaking on behalf, right?
Thank you for allowing us to address you tonight. Again, my name is Andrew Suits. I am new to Mishawaka, but returning back home again to Indiana as the lead pastor at Mishawaka First United Methodist Church. We spent the previous 10 or so years in Arkansas and 3 years in Southwest Florida, so it was wonderful, but it's good to be back home again, and so that's my connection here. I'm also, of course, if you know Jane Wright, she's a member at First United Methodist Church of Mishawaka, so she quickly pulled me into the Mishawaka Education Foundation, so that's part of why I'm here tonight. And I have 2 students in the school, one at the high school and one at John Young. So just to share some happenings with MEF. MEF is so happy that the First League will be going to the World Tournament and that the Battelle Vex team will be going to the state tournament. We are so proud of these students and sponsors for their outstanding work. The School City of Mishawaka academic teams such as these make the MEF and our efforts to support them thrive. MEF is busy working on the first MEF and MHS job fair on April 18th from 9:30 to 11:30 a.m. at the main gym at the high school. And we are planning on having over 80 area businesses represented and a financial seminar done by TCU for all our juniors and seniors to acquire part-time jobs, internships, and permanent jobs as well. Would you like to help? Of course, we have opportunities for help to get the information to the area businesses. If so, please, of course, let our Executive Director, Jane Wright, know of any contacts to be a part of this great opportunity for our students. And remember also that the deadline for spring grants is February 13th at 3:30. And also the MEF Major Saver campaign is here March 15th through April 30th. Once again, thank you for allowing us to share.
Thank you. 4.04 is the general public. If you'd like to come back up.
That's me.
Andrew?
Well, I come back now and I rise as a concerned parent, of course, and just to make sure, I assume this is on our minds as I took my youngest home last week, as many students did from John Young, with their rumors and rumors of threats and whatever's going on there. Just want to make sure that's on our minds, and certainly maybe it's more of a question to ask the board or ask Dr. Stevens as to what's going on there with making sure our students are as safe as possible, which I know is something we all share.
Okay, thank you. Next up is Julie, is it Monetta?
Yes. Thank you. My name is Julie Minetta, 124 River Avenue in Mishawaka. So when I interviewed with School City of Mishawaka for an instructional coaching position a couple of years ago, I was given a graphic of the Mishawaka Way. It really impressed me. And honestly, it was part of what made me want to become an employee in the district. It is a collection of both ideals and goals, and while no place or person is perfect, Dr. Sarah Hickel largely embodies this collection, both as a district representative and as a person. She has high expectations, both for herself and for the people around her. And she communicates these expectations both through her own actions as well as in her interactions. These high expectations are balanced with a growth mindset, acceptance and support, and with a collaborative intention. Dr. Hickel is intelligent, knowledgeable, more than capable of doing her job. She is also warm and relatable. The relationships that she forges are a large part of why she is so effective at making progress with the academic goals that she sets. I care deeply for this institution and its people, and I am disheartened by the initiative to not renew Dr. Hickel's contract. Not only would that be a huge loss for the ongoing curricular progress of the district, but it is also a divisive move that would adversely affect morale and relationships if it is brought to fruition. So I come here to urge the board members to carefully consider the impact that their vote will have. If there is a vote to not renew Dr. Hickel's contract, I worry for the impact that it will have on teachers and ultimately on students. Thank you.
Thank you. The consent agenda, 5.01, approval of the minutes of the January 25th, 2023 regular board meeting. It is recommended that the minutes of the January 25th, 2023 regular board meeting be approved as presented. 5.02, approval of the minutes of the February 2nd, 2023 executive meeting. It is recommended that the minutes of the February 2nd, 2023 executive board meeting be approved as presented. 5.03, approval of the bill, warrants, and payroll. It is recommended that the board approve payments of bills, warrants, and payroll in the amount of $2,143,397.12 from the appropriate funds. 5.04, December financial report. It is recommended that the board approve the December 2022 financial report as presented. 5.05, approval of the consent agenda. It is recommended that the Board of School Trustees approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there any questions or comments? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. 6, reports and discussion items. 6.01, legislative updates. Mrs. Lehman.
Thank you. So I don't have much to report, because most bills right now are sitting in committee waiting to be heard or to be put on their docket to be heard. But some of the ones that ISB is looking at is House Bill 1428, and that's a bill to make school board elections partisan. It was on the docket to be heard this morning in the House Committee on Elections and Apportionment, but as of 5 o'clock, I didn't see any movement there yet. So, but needless to say, ISB is unanimously opposes this bill, as I think most of us are. Senate Bill 375. This bill aims to help families pay for pre-K by changing the income requirements. It was heard on Monday, and it was reassigned to the Committee on Appropriations for further action. And then the latest one that's getting some attention is Senate Bill 486, Education Matters. It's getting attention especially among teachers. The bill repeals teacher training requirements regarding certain matters, among a slew of other provisions dealing with certified employees. And this bill left the committee and has been assigned to the Committee on Appropriations. So that's all for now that I have. as always, I urge anyone, who follows the bills and see what their outcome is, to show your support or opposition by, contacting our state rep or sending emails.
Okay. Well, thank you for the update. Appreciate that you do that for us. 6.02, December financial statements and monthly comparison. Mrs. Boland.
Thank you, President Parks, Dr. Stevens, members of the board. We will start with our education fund. Our state tuition came in over because we do budget that as conservative for what we expect to get from our state tuition. So that came in almost 2% over. Our benefits were close to being what we had budgeted. And that also included, during COVID, we were able to defer half of what we had in 2020 for our Fed FICA. So that was a little over 400,000. So that does include that 400,000. Our transfers out, that was the 500,000 for the insurance fund that was approved last month. And then on the transfers to operations, originally we thought it would be 6 million, but we brought it to the board to see if we could do 350,000 extra, and that was approved also. So that is why that one is over what the original budget is. And if we go to the referendum, we collected almost 98% for our local property tax, so this was not affected by the tax caps. Our expenses, we did transfer the 400,000 to the rainy day, and that was what we had budgeted for everything. Also now you'll also see that the revenues, we still have a budget year to date of 562,000. We do have though carry forward purchases of 358,000 with our network projects that we have going on. And if we go to the debt service, everything was in line with that, and we also then followed through with our amortization schedule, so that's why everything is usually spot on with that part. And then if we go to the referendum, again, you'll see that we have almost 98% for our local property tax that was collected. So again, everything is going according to plan. And for our operations fund, this is where you'll see that we only collected like 31%, and that is due to the property tax losses. So, or the circuit breaker losses, I apologize for that. Our expenditures for our salaries, that was a little under what we had budgeted, but again, we were able to transfer salaries and benefits into the ESSER. So we have to keep that in mind. And for the school lunch, everything, that fund still looks good. We still have our plans of how we're going to spend everything down, but again, that was with COVID, and we had the free meals, so we were getting more money from the state for the reimbursement. Curricular materials. We did see a little less revenue, but that was because of the textbook assistance from when we recovered from the pandemic. And if we want to move to the self-insurance fund, and that was, and again, we switched from SIHO to Oxient. So our Oxient bills, they come in with, they give us a credit against our expenses instead of giving us a check. So that's why the other miscellaneous, that would have been our rebates. Okay. And then, so we still had a positive balance, and that was even with our transfer of the 500,000 that was approved. And then if we look at on the education and operations funds, the historical one, that was where we did have an overall surplus, but again, Part of that is because we had offset to the ESSER fund. And if there's any questions, comments?
Do you want to do the comparison?
Oh, that was,
Oh,
I'm
that
sorry.
was the comparison.
Yep,
Okay.
that was the
All right.
comparison. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. Are there any questions? All right, thank you so much. 7, Human Resources, 7.01, Personnel Report, Mr. Labanc.
Thank you, President Parks, members of the board. This evening, we're recommending the appointment of 8 support staff and 6 extra duty assignments. We also have 2 retirees that we'd love to celebrate this evening, Mrs. Elena Zanino and Miss Zoe Aerosmith. Mrs. Zanino was hired in July of 2000. She'll be retiring at the end of the school year from Hums Elementary after 23 awesome years of service to the corporation. And if you've had the privilege of knowing Mrs. Zanino, you know she is one of the best. Mr. Yovi's here in the audience, he can attest to that. Next, Ms. Zoe Aerosmith. She serves in the food service department at Mishawaka High School. She'll be with us through the end of the calendar year. When she turns in that much-deserved and more than earned golden ticket to retirement in December, she will have served School City for just over 32 years. So I say it every meeting, but I mean it every meeting. You know, on behalf of the leadership team, we want to thank both Elena and Zoe for the many years of service and their dedication to the corporation, and wish them the very best on their journey. As always, happy to answer any questions that the board may have, but with that, it's recommended that the Board of School Trustees approve the personnel report dated February 8th, 2023 as presented.
So moved. Second.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. 8, Curriculum, Instruction, and Technology. There's nothing. 9, Business and Operations. 9.01, Out-of-District Enrollment Recommendation for the 2023-2024 school year. Dr. Stevens, Mississippi.
Thank you, President Parks. And as Mrs. Scheiko comes up to the podium, she will be providing our presentation tonight for our out-of-district enrollment plan. You will notice this plan mirrors very similarly to plans we have passed and put in front of the board in previous years. There are some small differences, and with that, I'll turn it over to Mrs. Scheiko, and she can give you the presentation, and we'll answer any questions the board may have.
Thank you, Dr. Stevens, and Madam President, members of the board. We do appreciate you taking a moment to look at our proposed plan for those potential incoming non-resident families to SEM. So each year, Indiana Code and the governing board establishes the number of transfer students that the school corporation has the capacity to accept in each grade level. The date by which the request to transfer into the corporation must be received by the governing body. We publish the date as well as the number of openings on the corporation's public website, report to the Indiana Department of Education, and as always, follow state guidelines for approval and denial of students' enrollments. So, in answering all of those pieces, right, that we are required to do, we will have February 8th tonight, hopefully approval on those numbers that we are proposing. Between March 1st and March 31st, applications for in-district and non-resident transfers will be open for the 23-24 school year. Continued acceptance of students, if space remains, through September 8th of 2023. By April 17th, parents and guardians will be notified of in-district approval or denial of requests. We do always look at our in-district transfers prior to our non-resident, as we find priority with students who, of course, already reside with us and have students that are with us in the district. Then by April 30th, parents and guardians will be notified no later than this date of the approval or denial of their non-resident transfer request. And then we plan to not reopen for January for second semester of that 23-24 school year. So we would be looking at that first run for first semester only. So a little bit of a change with that piece than from prior years. So our target numbers, very quickly, you can see here, kindergarten 120, grade 1 25, grade 2 55, grade 3 10, grade 4 55, grade 5 20, grade 6 70, grade 7 30, grade 8 40, grade 9 40, grade 10 40, grade 11 25, and grade 12 we would be closed, which leaves an open number of enrollments to max of 530 students to join us as non-resident outside of our boundaries. Another change for the upcoming year is that we would keep LaSalle Elementary closed, with the exception of family members or members of the same household. We did have an increase there in resident enrollments as we pushed into this current school year. And so we want to make sure that we are looking at continuing with our small classroom sizes and making sure that we are not increasing too much with the enrollment there at LaSalle. All right, so we will continue using SchoolMint software, which is the platform that we use for our incoming transfers. It makes life very efficient for our parents and guardians, very quick communication, and allows all of us here in the district that need to be in the know of where we sit with each and every family that's coming into the district. So of course that will be connected with technology or single sign-on secretary accounts and everything that we currently have with them continuing through into the next year. Does anyone have questions?
Miranda, I have a question for you, please, about the enrollment. How many of the families from outside the district have more than one child in Mishawaka schools? Is it quite a few, or?
Oh, it is quite a few, yes. They come in with their students, and then they continue with their younger kindergartners coming in every couple of years. So yes, there are many families that are non-resident that choose to stay with us for their entire families. Yes.
Good, thank you.
And Miranda, I know that some grades are, you're asking for a larger number than what we had before.
So there is a formula that we look at. So we take our current enrollment and then look at that target number for the classroom size. We do leave some spaces open in order to have resident enrollment, and then the remainder of those spaces would stay open for our kiddos to come in with non-resident families.
Okay, because some of them are quite a big jump. Like
Yes,
second
some of
grade
them are
and
quite large. Yes, absolutely. Where others are much smaller.
Yeah.
So when you have kindergarten classrooms, our targets are smaller in class sizes, and then as you increase into upper elementary grade levels, we have larger class sizes. Certainly still trying to stay small, but we do increase those numbers within the classrooms slightly. And so as students move up through grade levels and those change, it does change, included with that resident enrollment as well, the numbers that you see each year. So.
Are there any other questions? All right, is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Maria. 10, policy updates, nothing. 11, superintendent's report and action items. Dr. Stevens?
Thank you, President Parks. Really just two things to share. The first was congratulations to Twin Branch Elementary for winning the I Love to Read Challenge through WSBT last Friday, February 3rd. In case you didn't know, the students were treated with a visit from WSBT meteorologist Carrie Peugeot, who read Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, and it was quite the interesting event if you didn't get a chance to check that out. But congratulations to Twin Branch on that front. And then next, also for the board and the public's knowledge pertaining to the operating referendum, the Political Action Committee, Our Children, Your Future, continues to work through the operating referendum campaign. And if members of the board or members of the public are interested in learning more, we certainly encourage them to learn more at supportmishawakaschools.com. And that concludes my superintendent's report tonight, President Parks.
Thank you. 12 is communications. 12.01, public announcements. All School City of Mishawaka buildings will be closed February 20th in observance of President's Day. The next meeting of the School City of Mishawaka Board of School Trustees will be February 22nd of 2023 at LaSalle Elementary. If there's nothing else to come before the board, this meeting is adjourned. Have a good evening and a good rest of your week.